Those mob fools want you gone so they can get back to the way things were. But I know the truth. There's no going back. You've changed things. Forever. Don't talk like one of them. You're not. Even if you'd like to be. To them, you're just a freak. Like me. They need you right now. But when they don't, they'll cast you out. Like a leper. You see, their morals, their code. It's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in again. It is I, the informant, coming to give you a bit of an update now on the Trump indictment. And yes, that intro was something that I have had, that I created, that is something that I've had in the back of my mind as an idea for quite some time. And this whole indictment situation has kind of motivated me to not only make a topic video, well, I guess a reaction video really, but also that little audio compilation that I put together. And just to start things off, I held back on making a video immediately following the indictment. One, I knew everybody and their mother was going to be doing the same thing, but also I wanted time to just kind of sit back and watch it all unfold throughout the week, see as many reactions as I could, and then look into, I guess, creating my own, coming up with my own response. And then also, of course, work and all that other jazz, as well as getting married in less than a week. And, so obviously I've been pretty busy. And obviously we have a, brand new federal holiday weekend, everyone. So I have off on Monday, so I have more time to, get around to creating a video. And this was the motivating factor that really got me up and moving on getting this done, because you can only comment so much on the same old nonsense week in and week out, so that's why videos on this channel are unfortunately more and more rare. If this was a full-time gig, I would do either daily or semi-daily videos commenting on pretty much everything I could find something to comment on. And in today's society, there really is no shortage of things to comment on, which is why Tim Pool is doing so well. The fence sitter himself, though, I have to give him some credit. He has been a little less on the fence on certain things, and yeah, that's a different topic entirely. But starting off, this page you see in front of you, this is obviously a court case that was back in 2012. Well, this was when the article was written, and then also there was updates on it regarding Bill Clinton, Taylor Branch audio tapes that he had kept as personal for, I believe, his presidential library or something like that. And I don't know if this is the right case, but there is a case that was ruled, that was decided by a federal judge that in my opinion pretty much discards this whole federal indictment, like all of these felony charges. So and I heard about it from the great Robert Barnes, and I don't remember exactly what the court case was called, and I heard it earlier this week, and I haven't had a chance to go back and look it over. But I do remember what the ruling is. So even if this isn't the right one, I read through this. I wasn't 100% sure because I couldn't find the exact language that Robert Barnes used in this article, which of course it's probably being scrubbed from the internet or quote unquote updated with new information, because and I'm kind of surprised that no one in the news is talking about it. So, but first I want to go all the way back to like some reactions that everyone has been having in response to this indictment, and a lot of them being Republican representatives. And I mean, it's been kind of predictable. The same people, on all sides are all saying pretty much what you would expect them to say. The one surprise is Vivek Ramaswamy. He was actually, I have to give him some credit, a lot of credit actually. And I honestly think, people often wonder, why do these people get into, presidential races when there's literally no shot at them winning, and it's literally to get their name out there, to get the attention of donors, to schedule meetings in the future, and in a lot of cases to try and get themselves in a position to try and persuade the nominee to select them for some sort of cabinet or executive staff or something, maybe even VP. And I think this is what Vivek's position is ultimately going to be. I mean, obviously he's in it to try and win the nomination, and he says a lot of things that Trump says. It's basically there's a lot of things that he said that go along with Trump. I mean, the one thing I don't agree on, and I have to go back and look for context, but it was something I saw that was very quick, and it was a tweet where he was on some show, and they asked him about transgenders in the military, and he says, I don't have a problem with that, and to me that's a deal breaker. Okay, no. But that aside, it wouldn't surprise me if his secondary goal would be to try and get President Trump's ear for him as a VP pick. I don't know how I feel about that. Everything on the surface looks pretty good because, again, a lot of the positions he has matches perfectly with a lot of Trump's ideas. But he showed up in Miami in front of the courthouse with all the Trump supporters. He held up his sworn statement that he intended, if he were to win the presidential election and if Trump was indeed convicted, he would pardon Trump on day one. And he was calling on all fellow Republicans in the race to show their support, show up in Miami, and also make the same pledge. Obviously, very few, if not, I don't think any, made that pledge. But to get into this, normally I do this stuff in the morning or midday, and I'm usually having coffee or tea, but this calls for something a little bit stronger. And that right there is a tall boy of New Belgium Brewery, Voodoo Ranger Fruit Force, a fruit punch IPA, a 9.5%. That's a heavy boy right there. And I kind of want to implement some brew reviews a little bit more on this channel, along with the political conversation. My boy, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on his name. I just called him my boy, and I can't. I know what his channel is. I just I don't want to get it wrong. Beer and Gear. Beer and Gear. I follow him over on BitChute and on Gab. Cool dude, has reviews a lot of cool brews. He also does some ruminations during caffeinations. That's like a little coffee plus going over daily topics. It's a fun channel, and I recommend him. He's been very responsive to me in his comment section, so I appreciate that. And so he influenced me to have a beer during this whole deal. So this will be the last thing about the beer. Voodoo Ranger, these Fruit Force, it's usually the ones with the skull, like the skeleton guy on it. All of them have been very good. We're going to go ahead and give this a sip here. Ooh, yeah. You can definitely taste the fruit punch aspect of it right at the top. Not too bitter, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of IPAs and stronger IPAs as well. Definitely, you definitely get that fruit punch taste right at the top there. And to me, it doesn't taste too bitter at the end. And very refreshing. Anyway, on to the real topics. So we'll go ahead and we'll bring up some responses here that everyone had. This and a lot of these are going to be retruths from Donald Trump himself. This is from Josh Hawley, who was on Laura Ingram's show, The Ingram Angle. If the president in power can just jail his political opponents, he's referring to Joe Biden, which is what Joe Biden is trying to do tonight, we don't have a republic anymore. Nobody should be in doubt of what's happening tonight. Now, correction, Josh Hawley. We would like to have a republic, but right now people are trying to call this a democratic republic, which here's the big difference between the two, and a lot of people don't understand this. Democratic republic is obviously majority of politicians that are elected by the representatives vote on something unilaterally, whether or not the people support it or not. It's whatever the party supports. A constitutional republic, which is the exact same with a very big difference. The elected representative listens to the people, and depending on the people that he represents in his district will determine whether he supports or doesn't support certain bills if the people are not in support of it. That means they hold that representative directly responsible for their actions. And that is something we really need to get back to, rather than just party politics and the constituents can go by the wayside since they're not mega donors. They come second, or in some cases, in most cases, they come last. So to continue with this quote, Joe Biden and his cronies are trying to take out their chief political opponent. This has never happened before in American history. We are in dangerous, dangerous waters, and it is because of Joe Biden. So that is very, very true. And now a lot of people are going to come out, Joe Biden didn't indict Donald Trump. Joe Biden didn't have anything to do with this. This was an individual, blah, 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 blah. When it comes to indictments and charges of this magnitude, where it is a former president of the United States, a very popular president of the United States, this is not something some investigative team and prosecutor just comes up with and then talks to their upper management and upper leadership and they say go ahead and do it. This is something that the attorney general would have to sign off on, because he will be looked at as being responsible and will be looked at as being the one to answer for all of these. And that, of course, in turn would have to be run by the executive office, because this is something during election season, you're going after the front runner of the Republican Party, who is leading by, in some cases, 30 to 40 points in the primary polls. They're looking at to jail someone who is more than likely going to be the opponent in the 2024 election. This was run by everyone, and anyone who is telling you otherwise is lying to you. So, moving on. This is from Breaking 911 on Twitter. This is Mark Levin. I did watch this Mark Levin reaction. A lot of people may have certain opinions of Mark Levin for various reasons. I completely understand. He's very pro-interventionist in the Middle East for obvious reasons. But when it comes to social issues, when it comes to the rule of law, he does make a lot of good points. It's one of those broken clock analogies. He says, there's tens of millions of us. You have crossed the Rubicon twice, which has never been done, and we will never forgive you. Never, ever. And that's the bottom line. I'm done. I would honestly recommend to go and listen to that whole spiel. He does make a lot of great points. And you could tell that he is very angry about this. And I have to say, Donald Trump should take every ally he can get at this point. So that's one. This is from Chuck Grassley. the Department of Justice indicts former President candidate Trump. Same day, the Department of Justice and the FBI restricts access to unnecessarily redacted Biden allegations, and they wonder why people think there are two standards for justice. Now, this is blatantly obvious. I don't believe in coincidences, especially when it comes to the government. It is very clear that these institutions are covering for the president of the United States, and it's so obvious. It's like brain damage inducing obvious that during the Trump administration, it was almost on a weekly basis you were hearing some leak, some ex-staffer, someone somewhere was coming up with these crazy allegations, these crazy stories, these crazy quotes, these insane ideas that made no sense, leaking to the press, and it was always something. And then, of course, looming over it all was this whole Mueller investigation over this fake Russian hoax, Russian collusion hoax. So it's so clear. And if anybody has ever had questions about the FBI, I honestly recommend watching J. Edgar, the movie that was all about the creation of the FBI by J. Edgar Hoover and the insane amount of corruption. The whole FBI, I made this joke after I watched that movie. I made this joke. I said, "Wow, the FBI was founded on corruption." Which is why there needs to be some serious house cleaning when it comes to these alphabet agencies. Moving on, this is Byron Donalds. He is a representative from Florida. He has two here, so we'll read the bottom first. Joe Biden just asked, "Where's the money?" when pressed on whether or not he sold out the country with his family's business deals. Joe, the money is hidden in the dozens of LLCs you and your family created to hide the money. Now, what a lot of people don't understand in business, especially when it comes to cronyism and politicians, what ends up happening is you have a lot of these political action groups, limited liability corporations that get money invested in or donated to or created by people who are related to these politicians, people who are working hand in glove with each other to basically what is called wash the money that's being funneled through the system in order to pay people for certain ideas. And this is what is called lobbyism, in my opinion. That is what I think lobbyists really do. They're not just lobbying Congress for certain things to be passed from certain organizations, corporations, and mega donors and all that other stuff. In the back rooms, this is shit that has been going on for decades. For as long as companies and lobbyists were able to go to Washington, this shit has been going on. So continuing on with Byron Donalds. Joe Biden, with the hubris of an authoritarian dictator, laughed at questions about his family's business dealings by saying, "Where's the money?" He can laugh this off because he knows this Department of Justice is doing his dirty work and the corrupt media will cover it all up. Stand with Trump. Now, everything I've ever seen out of Byron Donalds has been based and red-pilled. Okay? I don't think... I don't get a chance to listen to him very often because I don't really watch cable news, so I rely on certain social media outlets and websites to provide me with these quotes. So, from what I've heard from this guy, he sounds like a very honest America First politician, okay? And it's continuing right here in this whole indictment situation. Representative Mike Johnson, unfortunately, I don't know who he is. It is no coincidence that President Trump was indicted the same day damning evidence against President Biden's corruption emerged. The weaponized Department of Justice is once again tipping the scales in their political favor. We must end this weaponization to restore faith in our institutions. I agree 100%. I don't know if faith can be restored in some of these institutions. I've said for a long time that, in my opinion, to really kind of condense wasteful spending is you eliminate all of these agencies, CIA, FBI, ATF, Homeland Security, all of these agencies that are pretty much just off the reservation doing their own things without anybody's knowledge. What I think should happen is that they should all be condensed into one overall. If there was no other option, okay. I mean, honestly, I think they should all just be dismantled. But that's beside the point. If there was no other option, and let's be honest, there's not going to be another option in Washington. Condense them all together, answerable only to the president. Have a director that oversees the operation, kind of like how an owner of a company will select a CEO for to handle the day-to-day operations. But big decisions get decided by the big guy. And when I say big guy, I don't mean Joe Biden. So condense them all into one. Have separate departments dedicated to certain things: domestic law enforcement, international counterterrorism, all that other crap. Counterintelligence, all that stuff. Have them all condensed into one, and just label it Homeland Security, which is what we have right now, but it's just its own entity along with all the others. I think Department of Homeland Security is a broad enough institution to basically have all of those assets condensed into one under that banner. Anyway, they'll probably be unpopular, but that's just my opinion. I know there are a lot of hardliners out there who just want to get rid of them all, but let's just be realistic here. Moving on, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, I think she's from Florida, I'm not sure. The Department of Justice indicting President Trump the same day House Oversight members, to include me, saw documentation from the FBI stating that Biden and his son, Hunter, each received a wire transfer of $5 million from a foreign actor is not by accident. What Biden has done is impeachable, and that is very true. You can't just give money to former vice president who is now president and their son for certain things. We have no idea what that money was for. All right, last one. Rick Scott, Florida, who, on a regular basis, I think, seems to step on a rake and hit his own face when on certain things, but maybe it's him, maybe it's not. I get a lot of these people, I get a lot of these representatives mixed up, so maybe it's not him, but I think I'm right on this. We have completely lost trust in the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice needs to come out tonight and explain how this is somehow different than what Hillary did and what Biden did. And this all happens on the same day, Biden's $5 million bribe. Okay, yeah, we get it. It's all the same song and dance, these last few. But it just outlines how everybody can see this. They're not slick, they're not clever, it's so obvious to what's going on here. Now, obviously President Trump had pleaded not guilty to all of these charges, and everybody, of course, was all like, oh my gosh, he pled not guilty. He pled not guilty. It's like, well, yeah, what did you think he was going to do? Go in there and say, yeah, I did it. So what? What are you going to do about it? I mean, that would be pretty funny, but yeah, he pled not guilty, and he's had a few speaking events, I believe, since then, and they've been pretty intense, I should say. Classic 2016 Trump. So the big thing here is going to be the court case that's upcoming. And now, what I seriously believe, and a lot of people believe the same thing, is that they are going to try and tie up Donald Trump in this case for as long as possible. They're going to try and drag him in and out of court as many times as possible. They're going to make him spend a lot of money on attorneys to continue handling this mess. And what is that going to do? It's going to take his focus off of the campaign, off of rallies, off of raising money, money for ads. That's a big thing, and because he's going to be spending a ton of money on attorneys, and this is going to really, I mean, anybody who says it's not going to is just, I don't think they fully understand. Donald Trump's a human. He's got flaws, just like everyone else. He's not a machine. He's an older man. He's got a lot on his plate. The stress is through the roof. Now, don't get me wrong. He handles stress very well. It's obvious because he's, you know, he's had a very successful career, and now he's in this politics game where pretty much everyone is out to get him. This is going to affect his campaign, and that's the whole point. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Democrats would love an actual conviction of some sort, regardless of what it is. But the big thing is going to be, you know, basically just getting in his way to stop him to prevent him from being able to campaign effectively. You know what that sounds like? That sounds a lot like election interference. It's exactly what it is. People were saying the same exact thing about Russians making political memes on Facebook that were pro-Trump and anti-Hillary, you know? And everyone was saying it was because Donald Trump is in collusion with the Russians and all that stuff. And they called all of that election interference. And that is, it's just simply not the case in my opinion. You want to know, in my opinion, the real reason why those Russian quote-unquote hackers were making these political memes about Hillary Clinton during the 2016 election was because, and this is quotable, you can look this up, Hillary Clinton was on record saying she would not hesitate to use nuclear weapons against Russia in any kind of a conflict. Well, I'll tell you what, back then, and still to this day, I'm sure many Russians are opposed to some sort of nuclear war, and Donald Trump was on record saying that he wanted to improve relations with the Russians. So, right now, what is going on with this indictment and this lawsuit is election interference. Now, the last thing I'm going to bring up is, of course, this page here that I was referring to earlier, and that federal lawsuit that the federal judge issued for Bill in regards to Bill Clinton. And what Robert Barnes said is that the judge's decision ultimately said that the mere act of a president taking documents with them out of the White House after his term is over is declassification. The mere act of them taking it is either declassification or labeling them as personal records, which means that the only course of action is a civil dispute between the congressional congressional records, I think, or the National Archives rather, and that former president, which is again a civil suit, which means there's no criminal charges, there's no felonies or anything like that. So anybody that's trying to tell you otherwise on that is also lying to you and being disingenuous. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, blah, blah, blah. And I will see you all in the next one.